Back in the day when I was in college, me and the oldest took off to the lake in the wilds of Glacier Country. I have an extensive backcountry exposure, even did a stint as a big game guide in a remote backcountry camp. On this day we enjoyed fishing and then settled in for the night. I pulled out my pan and stoked up a nice fire, and it was clear and cool as the sun faded into the western slopes. We cooked up some fresh rainbow trout with garlic butter and filled our stomachs. I leaned back against the cooler after pulling out a refreshing beverage. The boy was soon asleep by the fire, as it had been a busy day. I sipped on my beer and watched the moonlight bouncing off the waves of the lake. There was still a light glow on the western horizon where the sun had gone down, and I could see the outline of the mountain peaks towering over the little lake. I slowly faded off to sleep with the sound of the lake waves gently lapping on the rocks. I awoke with a start. The fire was out, and the lantern was out. The moon was gone and it was pitch black. Something felt wrong. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. I was paralyzed. I could hear my heart thumping as I strained to hear something in the bush. All was quiet. I had a horrible uneasy feeling. I gathered myself together and started kicking around the fire. A small flame came alive and I quickly threw on some wood. In the firelight, I could see that the boy had awoke, and I was shocked to see his wide open eyes staring at me. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing. Go climb in the tent." I lied. He crawled into the tent, but even in the light of the fire I couldn't shake my wariness. Something was out there in the bush, and I could feel it watching me. I gathered up my light and flashed it around the camp. I saw nothing. Finally, I began to calm down and crawled back into the tent with the boy. Then again, like clockwork, I awoke completely tense. This time, I couldn't shake the feeling at all. I finally instructed the boy to wake up and go to the truck. I packed up all the camp and drove around to the other side of the lake. We slept in the truck the rest of the night. At dawn, I got up and looked across the lake where we were camped earlier, and another uneasy feeling came over me. I decided it was time to go home. I don't know what was out there, or what was going on over there, but I know my instincts, and something was bad wrong with that place. Whatever it was, I'll leave it to your imagination, but it creeps me out to this day just thinking about that night. My dad and I found a dead camper in Yellowstone when I was about 5 or 6. We were walking, throwing stones into the lake. It was like every feel-good vacation movie you've ever seen. Then we saw this guy slumped against a tree. At first we didn't think much of it, but it was getting cold and dark, and my dad didn't want the guy to fall asleep and wake up unable to find his way back to his camp. So my dad and I started walking towards him, but the closer we got, the worse it smelled. Not like rotting flesh, but just a very bad smell. I can't really describe it. My dad told me to stay back, and he walked over to the guy and asked him if he was okay. No response. He asked again. No response. My dad then tapped the guy's shoulder, and the body made sort of a crunching noise as it felt slightly to the side. When this happened, the guy's hat fell off. Because of the way the guy had been slanted, it was like all the blood had gone out half the guy's face and pulled into the other side. One eye was completely red, possibly from a burst blood vessel. My dad rushed over to me and took me back to the Camp Ranger's fort place. He had me stay with some nice lady whom I remember looked distinctly like Big Bird. While he led another ranger and a paramedic to the site of the body, it wasn't a horrifying, "oh my god, I got attacked by a bear" type scenario, but it was pretty scary, being in a secluded area, far away from home, and finding a dead body in the woods. While backpacking the Appalachian Trail in northern Pennsylvania, me and my friend had just finished up hiking a very large hill and were ready for lunch. We had planned on eating at this shelter that was another 2 miles down and up another hill. After some discussion, we decided to eat at the shelter as there would be water there. Well, as we arrive at the shelter, we come across another hiker. This guy was just carrying an old school backpack and was digging for crumbs out of the bottom of a Fritos bag. So he seemed out of place. We asked if he was backpacking or day hiking. Never making eye contact, he mutters out, "Backpacking." We then asked if he was section hiking or through hiking, as in doing the entire trail or just a section of it. He looks at us with this weird look and says, just hiking through. After a little bit of talking and avoiding all of our questions, he just rushly said, "I gotta go." As he was packing his bag, we asked him what his trail name was so that we could look out for him on the logbooks. He clearly had no idea what we were talking about, and this struck us odd as anyone who hikes the Appalachian Trail knows what a trail name is, and they usually have one to go by. After sort of explaining what he meant, he said, "Oh, right, it's Hatchet," which is obviously a load of crap because this guy was holding a pack axe in his hand when he said this. Well, we continue hiking and we reach our camping spot. We got settled in for the night when I'm awoken by Hatchet rustling through my backpack. Now me and my friend both use hammocks, and I had my backpack wrapped around the tree my hammock was hanging on, so he ended up shaking my entire hammock. I screamed, "Hey!" And then he looks at my hammock, stares right at me for a good second, and then bolts. By this time I got out of the hammock, and he was nowhere to be seen. Turns out he stole my pack of tuna from my bag, and a couple of granola bars from my buddies. We never saw him again. The weirdest part was when we got back into town and ate lunch at the diner. Turns out old Hatchet was on the run. There was a wanted poster hanging up on the door. It turns out 2 weeks prior he had mugged a couple people, leaving one guy pretty bloody. The whole thing was pretty freaky. We gave our statement to the police but never heard if they caught him or not. My friends and I found a 22-year-old girl face down in the mud with both legs broken with compound fractures. She had no cell phone, no water, no food, and nothing to keep her warm. Her friend was dead. A little backstory. My two friends and I were hiking in a pretty popular spot in our area. It's a 150-foot waterfall that takes about 45 minutes uphill hike to get to. We decided to go bouldering around the bottom of the waterfall. There are various little pools and boulders where the water runs off from the waterfall. This bouldering trail was not on the main trail, and not many hikers ever veer off the main trail. When we found her, obviously we called 911 and gave her any supplies we had. Eventually a helicopter showed up and they flew her to the nearest hospital. Turns out she was hiking with her friend the night before when they both fell off the waterfall. Her friend must have gone to help, but unfortunately died less than 100 yards from where we found the girl. So no one knew she was hurt or that she even was there. It was a miracle that she was still alive, and mind-blowing to think what she had gone through when we found her 20 hours earlier. Last year, I had visited a camp with my friend. It was the camp's second year, and nobody knew anything about any strange occurrences happening at the camp since it was new. One night, I awoke and felt very uncomfortable. Everybody was asleep in the room, but I felt as if I was being watched. I looked in the middle of the room, and through what little light was in there from the moon, I swear I can make out a shape of a person standing right in the middle of the room. I felt even more uncomfortable, but I didn't want to wake anybody or risk getting out of my bunk to turn on the light. I simply ignored it and turned around in the other direction. I had the worst feeling that I would fall off my bed, but nothing happened. Morning came, and I asked my cabin if anyone had woken up in the middle of the night, and if they had experienced anything I felt. A few people, my friend included, had said they had indeed felt something strange and had woken up. One of my counselors went on to say that the girl in the next cabin over had woken up and saw a woman standing by her bed with her arm extended out. She had fallen asleep and woken back up to see the woman still standing there. What it was, we still don't know. But maybe it can be a story passed on from year to year at the camp. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. I just wanted to share with you one last story. This is what actually caused me to decide to make this creepy camping experiences, I guess you could call it. So this past weekend, me and my friend went up to West Virginia. We live in Virginia right now. We went up to West Virginia for the weekend to go camping with one of our good friends that lives up there. And so we ride up there and we pick him up and we head out to this camp spot. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. And there's no cell phone signal. There's no other campers around. It's just the one flat camping spot up in the mountains of West Virginia. It's pretty creepy. We got there just before sundown. And we set up camp. We put up 2 different tents and had to go get some firewood. And me and one of my friends split off with an axe out in the woods to go get some firewood. And our other friend stayed by the campsite to just kind of keep the fire going. And anyway, we come back with some wood. And my friend says he heard some coyotes out and off in the distance. We didn't really think much of it because, I mean, you do hear them where we live pretty often. And long story short, as the night went on, we kept on hearing these like creepy like footsteps around our campsite. And we found out, well, we thought we found out what the cause of that was. We saw some eyes glowing off maybe 10 feet away from where we were sitting around the fire, and we figured out, we saw it finally, and it was a bobcat. It was a small bobcat, nothing to really be afraid of, but we figured out, well, that's what's been causing the noise the whole night. So as the night goes on, we kind of calmed down. We were a little bit on edge from hearing all those other weird noises. Like I said, there's absolutely no cell phone signal, and we hear a couple more weird noises. We hear footsteps, and it doesn't sound like a bobcat. It sounds like it's too big to be a bobcat. And one of the friends that was with us swears that he saw something walk by as he was flashing a flashlight over in the woods. And we didn't know what was going on. Just as a safety precaution, we kind of pulled the car over by our campsite, and we were just kind of like, all of us had flashlights, and we were kind of looking around. And right as soon as we shut the flashlights off and we're getting ready to go back into our tent, we hear 2 loud, by loud I mean loud bangs, just 2 loud thuds. It sounds like someone took a bat and just hit it up against a tree. And it's like just those 2 loud thuds, and then after that we hear something. It sounds like it's sprinting right towards us, and we all freak out, don't even bother looking to see what it is. We hop in the car and just peel out of there and don't look back. We go back in the morning, and the camp's fine. Nothing was messed with, nothing was destroyed. But that was probably one of the craziest experiences that I've had, maybe ever. I know that's the scariest I've probably been in a very long time. When you hear 2 big thuds like that and something charging right at you that sounds pretty freaking huge, that definitely puts you on edge. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video, and hope you like it, hope you enjoy it.